Hi, welcome back friends. Today I will be going over some really important Blender shortcuts. One of the main ones is Shift A, and Shift A gives you this menu which will give you meshes, which gives you all these shapes that you can do, or curves, which are very useful, especially when you're working with simple shapes like rounded cylinders or just hair even. And it gives you surface, I don't know what that is. And this, I don't know what that is. Volume, text. Text is really good. You can make 3D text with that, makes it easy. Grease pencil, I don't know what that is. Armature, so you can add a bone or have a created armature, or you can have these are plugins, I believe, actually. Yeah, that's a plugin, that's a plugin, that's a plugin, but it'll give you the option for the single bone, which is something. You can also get plugins that just automatically give you like humanoid rig or an animalistic rig or basics, which is human or quadruped, or you can have cat, shark, wolf, horse, and basic human and whatnot. Then empty, I don't know what that is. Image, you have a reference image or a background image. Reference image, wherever you're looking, it will paste an image there. So when you're putting in an image, you have to make sure that you're like, well, you don't have to, but I like to make sure that I'm front on or side on before I do that. Lighting, light probes, camera, speaker, I don't know what that is. Force field, I don't know what that is. Collection, adds a collection over here. So that is Shift A. For this purpose, I will show some things. Also, when you do apply them, you can get them going all wonky donkey in that little corner bit. And go A, one has more options, will be this one, so you have less turning, less of that. And this tends to be an easy way to make low poly, like rings and necklaces and things like that, just to give you an idea of what the low poly might look like. But one thing I wanted to show you is the next shortcut, which would be, let's say we want to have a line go in the middle. We'll have to press Control R for Roger, and we can scroll our mouse wheel forwards, and it gives us more and more and more and more sections. Or we can scroll it back and gives us less. So we can do things like that, and once we click it, it says where do you want to put it. We can either put it somewhere specific or right click, and it just puts it to the center. Another cool thing that I learnt only recently is if you go into one of these modes, so this would be select edge, that's select face, that's select vertice. So we want to select the edge, select that edge, select that edge, select that edge, select that edge. And then we want to press Control B to bevel. You can pull the bevel back. And then we do that R trick again. This gives us a really good, really basic, really simple way to make ridges come out of a flat surface. And that's highly recommended when it comes to retopology and when it comes to video game assets. So say you have a handle to a gun and you want it to have those ridges come out. And then boom, you got a handle with the ridges. I learnt that 2 days ago basically. But I think that's a really cool thing. One of the other things as well is if you want this bit to extrude, and I just pressed face there, but you want this bit to extrude, maybe this one and this one, but you don't want those in between, so you just select those faces, press E to extrude. So remember, E's for extrude, and you can extrude them and place them wherever you want. But do know if you do extrude and you right click, it will do the same thing. It will go back to its original position, so then you can move it around. Now G lets you move things around in the 3D space wherever you're facing. It will go left, right, up, down. G is geographical, so like anywhere on a map, like an X or Y position on a map. So you want to move its geography, we will press G for geography. Moving on to S. S will shrink or expand, make it all different. The way I remember it is that S is for size, so we can make the size small or big, depending on what we want the size to be. So we can adjust it that way. The next one is Alt S, which does the same as size, but it allows us to expand it from its solid point. So I can make it go like that, make it go smaller, and it goes on its axis of itself. So when we have a big rounded section and we want it to be bigger or smaller, and we don't want it to, you know, when we go bigger, we don't want it to do that. We want it to go wide. We would do Alt S. So like the alternative of size. So that's another way I remember it, is its alternate size. The next shortcut is A for select all. So it's all, A all. H to hide. Pretty quick, easy to remember that one. Or we go Alt H, so the alternative of hiding, which is showing, and that would be unhiding. Controlled bevel is how I remember that one as well. So it's Control B makes you give bevel. Same thing with the R. You go forwards with your mouse. You can make more bevels than one, or less bevels depending on what you want. If we go tab, it tabs in between edit mode and whatever mode we're in last. So remember, tab always gets you into edit mode. It won't work if you're over here in this spot. It won't work if you're over here. It won't work if you're over here. It'll only work if you're in the scene. So remember that as well. Most of these shortcuts only work when your mouse is in the correct scene for the shortcut. Same goes with if we want to put a modifier on. So we want to make this smooth. And we can't go Control A because that will give us this menu. That's not what we want. Your mouse won't work if it's not over the actual thing you want to do the shortcut on. So if you're in here, it's going to do this shortcut. If you're down here, it's going to do nothing. If you're up here, it's going to do nothing. You have to be over what you want to apply. So Control A will apply the change. So Control A while you're over what change you want to make. And now that's our mesh. Say I don't want this side. So what I would do is select this whole side. G, move it over past this middle point. Select all, come up here to mesh. Then symmetrize. And it will automatically symmetrize this way. But we could make it the other way, so we want it the other way. We could just change the orientation and it will change what is being mirrored. But say we want that, so now we have this. So if we go into vertice mode and say I want this to come out, but I don't want that little gap that it's causing because it's not the way that I want it. I want the ridge to come out this way. The only way I've learned how to fix that is if I press one, shift, press the other one, and then press J for jumping jacks. Also for join. So when you want to join two things together, you would press J. And then it gives you that little line there. And that's another shortcut that can help you when you're just trying to say you have, as this has more than 4 corners, and you wanted to cut off the corner, like I want it to stay with 4 corners. And then you could do whatever you wanted with this, would be probably that. And then you would fix whatever you wanted to fix. Another shortcut that's really handy is M. M is to merge, so you can merge whatever you've selected. Say I want to merge that not to center, I want to merge it to the last point I've clicked. So we select 1 and then 2, press M to merge to last, and vice versa, merge to first, we would do that. So whatever we clicked first, it will merge to that one. Or we can just simply merge to center, And if we want to really be fancy about it, we can then merge to the center of the object. Those are some of the things you can do. Also, another helpful thing, say you have a model that has all of these triangles, and you don't want triangles, you want it to be, you know, pretty much all quads, and you're not happy that it's just showing you triangles. What you can do is select all, go to face, then pick tris to quads, and that will get rid of most of your triangles. Obviously there'll be some exceptions to the rule, but with that you can just go in with something like this, and then we go back to face, and we go back to tris to quads, and you can do that individually, but you have to make sure that you have a quad of triangles that you can do that with, otherwise it will not change it, because this is technically a quad and this is technically a triangle. So if we select these two and go face, quads to tris, it will make that into a quad. So we need two triangles next to each other to make a quad. That's generally the rule of thumb there. Next thing is learning how curves work. They're pretty simple, pretty basic. You can do whatever you want with this shape. You maybe push it down like that, maybe push it across, maybe even make some more subdivisions. Surely you know how to do subdivisions. If not, just right click and press subdivide, but you have to have 2 points enacted at once. So now we got this pretty interesting shape. We can then go over to this data where it has all the curve information. My system can't run too much, so I have to make it as low poly as possible to make it run well. I mean, I can go up to like maybe 7, but I can't do the 12 that it's standard with. But yeah, let's say that's the shape we want. We can also then add a path. The path can rotate, shrink, so we can just see it at least, and then pour that down again because my system will crash if I don't. I have a very weak system because my CPU is always overheated. And then we go down here into where it says geometry, and it would usually have round, and when we do round you can make it round. You don't need an extra thing. You can also make the resolution higher, make the resolution lower, depending on what you want from it. That's that. And it always gives you a circle, or you can go to object mode to whatever shape that you've just made, and it will give you it in a curve. The curve can then be, as it says, curved. So you can curve it however you want. Now, with the idea of shrinking, we want an alternative sizing. So we can size it up with the Alt S, make the whole thing maybe a little bit thinner, or we can make a side of it bigger, and that, as you can see right now, looks like pretty interesting cloth, like a flowy dress or cape or something. So you can make pretty much anything really quickly with curves and somewhat nicely, I would say. That's basically it with curves. You can offset them if you want, and that just puts it off center, or you can just, yeah, have them as they are. Empty reference, like I said before, I like to do this, go straight forwards, then find my reference image, and then we got our reference image as a plane in our project, and she will always be in front of whatever object we have at the center. So say we've got a Q, she will always be where she is. If we even go to wireframe mode, we'll still be able to see it. So that's one of the benefits of a reference image from importing an image, because we can then see this image no matter what mode we are in, We can also select this in the image settings. We can change the opacity to be a little bit see-through so we can work with it, but we can also see what we're working with within the image. So if I wanted to move the cube to have some angles and stuff, we can make sure that that works, you know, so I can just get every piece to go over the head however I want it to, and I'll still have that outline to work with. So yeah, that's another fairly simple, fairly straightforward shortcuts and what not. But yes, the other things, so light and light probe. Light probe just tells the light and objects what they're reflecting and if it's in the scene or not. So that's usually for like rendering something as an image. My mother is home, which means that I cannot record anymore. But yeah, that's the basics of that. Hopefully this video helped. If not, I'm sorry. If so, please consider leaving a like or maybe even subscribing, because that would be amazing. And with that, I'll see you later. Bye bye!